You can be excellent at your work and still lose the $5,000 conversation because the buyer cannot see how you think. They look at 3 scattered samples, no famous logos, and a general services page. Then they wonder quietly, why should I trust this person with an expensive problem? That question keeps capable digital nomads stuck at low rates, not because they lack skill, but because their judgment is invisible. Welcome to Nomad High Income Skills, episode 65. I'm Aria Reyes. Today, you'll learn exactly how to build a premium-proof asset so you can attract better clients and build sustainable high income. Premium clients are not only buying a finished deliverable, they are buying confidence in the decisions behind it. Can you spot the costly problem? Can you separate evidence from assumption? Can you explain a recommendation without pretending to know what you have not measured? Those are valuable skills, and you can demonstrate them before you have a long list of testimonials. That is the purpose of a credibility sprint. One narrowly defined problem, one small evidence-based asset, and one clear reason for the right buyer to start a conversation. It is not fake authority. It is not a guaranteed result. And it is not a 20-hour free consulting project wearing a nicer name. Start with a decision, not a service. Instead of saying, I'm going to make a marketing audit, ask, which buyer is facing which costly problem, and what decision would better information help them make? If your answer is everyone, stop there. Narrow it. Maybe you help a head of growth decide whether to revise a pricing page, change an offer, or send more traffic to the existing experience. Maybe you help an operations leader decide where a remote team is losing time between inquiry, proposal, and delivery. One buyer, one problem, one decision. Now choose one observable indicator connected to that decision. It could be qualified demo requests, completed trial signups, checkout starts, or the percentage of people who reach an important step. You are not promising to improve the number. You are showing that you understand where the number comes from and what could be investigated. Ask yourself, what costly uncertainty would this buyer want resolved first? That question will usually lead you to a much stronger proof target than, what sample should I add to my portfolio? Broad proof gets politely ignored. Specific proof gives the right buyer a reason to lean in. Once you have the target, gather only the inputs you are allowed to use. Public website pages, public pricing, published customer language, and approved brief, or anonymized information may be enough. If you use real client material, get permission and remove sensitive details. You are not trying to reconstruct the entire business. You are collecting enough context to make one defensible observation. Look at the promise being made, the action the visitor is asked to take, the friction between those 2 points, and the evidence supporting your interpretation. Then create the smallest asset that can show your reasoning. A 3-page mini audit works. So does a short website teardown, a simple workflow prototype, a before and after recommendation, or a recorded walkthrough with a written summary. Give yourself a fixed window, perhaps 4 focused hours across 2 days. If it needs 20 hours, it is no longer a credibility sprint. It is a consulting project you are donating. And donating your best strategic thinking is not a sustainable client acquisition system. Make the logic easy to follow. Tell the listener or the buyer what kind of business you examined and which user or operational moment matters. State your diagnosis as a hypothesis, not a dramatic verdict. The page may be asking visitors to make a high-commitment decision before it answers their primary concern. That is credible. This page is killing your revenue is theater. Point to the exact wording, sequence, missing information, or unnecessary step that led you to the hypothesis. Then offer 1 or 2 recommendations and explain why they fit. Finally, name a constraint. Limited development capacity, an existing pricing model, or a fixed launch date can change the right recommendation. Strong expertise respects reality. Your proof page does not need to be long. Start by telling the buyer what problem you chose and why it matters. Show what you looked at. Explain what you noticed. Describe what you would test next and what you would need to learn before making a larger recommendation. Add a sentence called, "What this does not prove." For example, This review does not establish the cause of the conversion gap without analytics and user research. It identifies a high-priority hypothesis worth testing. That sentence can build more trust than another paragraph of self-promotion. You are making the path to better knowledge visible. Here is what that looked like for Maya, a remote conversion strategist working between Lisbon and Austin. She was good at improving landing pages, but the niche she wanted to pursue did not know her yet. Her portfolio said, "I help companies convert more visitors." True, but forgettable. So she chose a sharper target, subscription software companies whose demo pages attracted interest but made the next step feel harder than it needed to be. She selected one public website and spent a few focused hours reviewing the page, the form, the confirmation experience, and the surrounding messaging. Maya did not claim to know the company's conversion rate. She noticed that the page asked for a substantial commitment before clearly answering 3 questions a qualified buyer might have. Who is this product best for? How does implementation work? What happens after I submit the form? She created a short teardown with annotated screenshots, a diagnosis framed as a hypothesis, and 3 changes she would test. One recommendation moved implementation support evidence closer to the form. Another made the next conversation feel more specific than a generic sales call. She also stated the limits of her review and invited the company to validate the hypotheses with its own data. Her outreach was short. She wrote, "I noticed a potential point of friction between your demo page promise and the information available before the form. I recorded a brief review with 2 hypotheses and 1 test I would prioritize. I may be wrong without your internal data, but I thought the observation could be useful. If this is an active priority, I'd be glad to compare notes." The reply was not, "You solved our funnel." It was closer to, "That issue is already on our growth team's agenda. Can we talk?" That is the realistic win. Relevance earned a conversation. It did not guarantee a contract. In that conversation, Maya asked about traffic sources, lead quality, the sales process, and what the team had already tested. She learned that the form was only one part of a larger handoff problem. Her proof asset opened the door because it demonstrated relevant judgment. The conversation determined whether there was a real fit. Eventually, they discussed a possible $5,000 engagement based on scope, access, and the work required. That was not revenue teardown. It was a potential project supported by a useful first signal. Now, you may be thinking, if I do not give a prospect more and more free analysis, how will they know I'm good? They already have the proof asset. The next layer requires paid access, better data, stakeholder conversations, and shared decision-making. If someone asks for a custom analysis of their entire business, you can say, "I'm happy to explore that in a paid diagnostic or project." The public review was intentionally limited. A responsible recommendation would require access to your data, stakeholders, and constraints. That is not being difficult. It is making the boundary clear before free work quietly expands. After a few conversations, improve the asset. What did prospects misunderstand? Which observation created the most useful discussion? What question kept coming up? Did the buyer care about your chosen indicator, or was another decision more urgent? Update the proof page based on those signals. You are not chasing perfection. You are making your expertise easier for the right people to evaluate. Over time, build a small library. 1 asset for a conversion problem, 1 for a workflow problem, 1 for a messaging problem. Each should have its own buyer and business decision. 3 focused assets can do more for your positioning than 30 generic posts. Protect the lifestyle you are building. Do not turn every prospect into a custom research assignment. Set a monthly limit for new proof assets. Reuse the same structure. Keep a source log. Work from public or approved information. And schedule the sprint when your attention is reliable, whether you are in a Lisbon apartment, an Austin co-working space, or somewhere between flights. Premium positioning should reduce frantic selling, not create a new form of it. Build income that supports your lifestyle, not destroys your health. Here is your 48-hour assignment. Write down 1 buyer, 1 costly problem, 1 decision they need to make, and 1 observable indicator connected to that decision. Choose a public or approved example. Set a 4-hour limit. Create a concise proof asset with your evidence, your reasoning, one recommendation, one constraint, and the next question you would investigate with paid access. Then share it with 3 well-matched prospects, or use it to guide 3 sales conversations. Do not promise a result you have not measured. Do not hide behind vague language. Make your existing judgment visible. For a deeper implementation path, open the Premium Positioning course after this episode and complete the Buyer Problem Worksheet. Use your answers to draft the first page of your credibility sprint. Then move to the proposal and client acquisition lessons when you are ready to turn that evidence into a paid conversation. You do not need to imitate someone else's authority. Show the right buyer how you see the problem, how you think through trade-offs, and how you would move responsibly toward evidence. Charge what you're worth, and what your proof help the market understand what that worth is. That's your high-income blueprint for today. Take one action this week and start seeing results. A concise proof asset will not guarantee a premium client, and it does not replace skill, follow-through, or a real fit. But it can turn invisible judgment into visible evidence. It can give a serious prospect something concrete to evaluate, and it can help you stop competing only on availability and price. Your skills are your freedom currency. Make the value of those skills easier to see. Keep your scope honest, and build the kind of income that lets you do excellent work wherever the road takes you.